There are some cartoons where Betty Boop has slightly darker skin. Usually she's very white, very pale. There are some where her skin's a bit darker, and just with doing a lot of research and Googling around, I've seen a few questions online where people ask, is Betty Boop black? And up until now, I'd never really thought too much about it, or about, I just assumed that they'd maybe given her a slightly different appearance for certain cartoons. But Betty Boop's Rise to Fame, it's a really enjoyable cartoon, but it does answer that question of how her skin is darker in certain cartoons, and it's a little bit awkward. But I really did enjoy the actual concept of this. This was released in 1934, directed by Dave Fleischer, with Myron Waldman as the animation director, and Bonnie Poe is voicing Betty Boop. We also have Mae Questel voicing Betty Boop. We have certain, I was going to say flashback scenes, but clips from other Betty Boop cartoons are edited into this, and very effectively so, and I will discuss that more in a moment. Max Fleischer is playing himself as we see him drawing Betty Boop, bringing her to life, and Betty Boop is being interviewed by an interviewer, and she's explaining various cartoons that she's appeared in and how they helped her rise to fame. And the cartoons they selected I thought were pretty decent. It included one of my favourite ones, which is The Old Man of the Mountain. It's a very creepy, eerie cartoon, but I enjoy it. It also included Stopping the Show, which I haven't seen, and Betty Boop's Bamboo Isle, which I have seen. And we get to see her actually stepping into these drawings, rather than the animation just taking place from the off in the drawing. We see her step onto the paper, into that scenery, and then the sections from those cartoons are edited into it, and it's very smooth. The transitions are beautiful. It's beautifully edited and it works really well. I like the setup of her being interviewed and recounting these cartoons, and Fleischer is talking to her saying, do you remember this? Do you remember when we did that? Obviously fantastic breaking of the fourth wall, and it's really effective and it's a lot of fun, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I am a fan of Betty Boop as a character, and this is a kind of a great way of looking at where she's been and what she has achieved, if that's the right word. And it's really nice, very pleasant, had a lot of fun with it. The awkward bit, this is maybe a tiny spoiler, but I think it's important to mention, is just before she jumps into the scenery for Bamboo Isle, in which point she plays a hula dancer. And it's a nice cartoon, it's pleasant enough, but before she does that, she stands in front of a bottle of ink and, to want for a better phrase, blacks up. And she basically becomes blackface. And obviously, as I said beforehand, where she just was darker skinned in those cartoons, you could argue that it was just a different way of animating her, maybe giving her a slightly different cultural background. But when you actually see her darkening her own skin to perform that, it's a bit peculiar. Definitely a sign of the times, of course, a product of the times. It doesn't detract from the quality of the animation, but it does just make you stop and think a little bit, and kind of makes the other cartoons where she does have darker skin slightly questionable. Now you know how Betty Boop darkened up her skin. But that aside, Betty Boop's Rise to Fame I really liked. I thought it was a really interesting idea, very fascinating narrative concept, executed beautifully. The editing is so smooth because, she'll step into the scenery and then it just becomes that clip from that cartoon. And it's not jarring, it doesn't feel like two separate cartoons. It was very effectively done, very enjoyable. If you're a fan of Betty Boop, it is something you'll want to watch. Certainly from a historical perspective, it's very fascinating. A great look at the character. And I really enjoyed it.